I'm sorry, I basically have a really bad hair day. I mean, I know it's really inappropriate for me to just be in here. And by the time right now, it's basically 12 a.m. And something just came up to my mind. Like every now and then when I often sleep, like I have so many fucking ideas every time, right? Like that's where like for some reason, like that's where mostly my creative thinking mostly sparks a lot. Even when I'm often listening to music, when I often listen to music, that's where most of my creative ideas literally like come into play. Like it just flourishes to my mind like every single time, right? So one of the things I actually want to talk about is this huge like procrastination that most people often face, like when they get to the whole like advanced version of self-improvement. I know a lot of guys often say that, oh yeah, self-improvement is gay, or like self-improvement is just retarded, or self-improvement is this and that. Okay, they just click off, okay? But one of the biggest things I've been experiencing a lot more is the fact that I often obsess so much on like the micro stuff. And and that's really a lot of people like they would often have, right? That's the problem that so many guys, when they get onto self-improvement, they often focus on like the big huge micro stuff. So like they focus on the whole like Huberman sleep routine, they focus on how they should always have like the massive morning routine, and they would often focus on the biggest things, which is journaling and meditation, which quite frankly they're really great. But most people often use those micro tasks as basically as a form of procrastination, and that's the biggest reasons that I hate when like all of these people, they often have like the biggest morning routine, or they obsess over how many hours of sleep you should be wanting to sleep, or this and that. People often count their steps, and they often have like their own like fucking fitness trackers, like they have Whoop bands or Oura rings. And quite frankly, you should always take care of your health, but I often believe that you really don't really need these things to basically improve your health. Like what really basically improves your health the most is mostly just to tolerate your stress, and mostly just to be happy with like doing the work that matters to you. Like I even read the book Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal, which is actually, I didn't like the book in the first place, but like it started to basically grow on me a lot more, that most of the way of how we should be living our lives, like one of the biggest keys to longevity, it's mostly just happiness. It's just being happy with just doing the work. It's mostly just a way of how like we have to tolerate our own emotions, which is being happy with doing the work and with positive emotions, because I often believe that with positive emotions, it basically leads us to actually, living longer, and to as well make work as if it's fun, right? Turn work into play, right? And I guess like you don't really have to stress yourself out if you just miss out on meditation or journaling. Like I'm not gonna lie, I normally don't meditate or journal every single day, even though I really should have. But the truth is, like what really matters the most is literally doing the big. Like if you're on self-improvement, if you actually want to like get started on self-improvement, then I guess you're gonna have to do these things like meditate, journal, stretch, read books, and go to the gym. Like you have to do these like self-improvement habits when you're starting out. But if you're more into the advanced version, you basically are gonna have to subtract a lot more, especially when you actually want to get yourself into like, let's say, your entrepreneurship venture, or when you're actually in a stage of actually wants to pursue your own career. You're gonna want to have to like just not make these things a priority. Like one of the things that really puts me in a priority right now, I don't know, if I were to put like 3 exclamation marks on a Google reminder, not Google reminder, on Apple reminder, one of the biggest things that really put me in a lot of like my biggest priorities is just doing the work, like my deep work task, and as well going to the gym and just read a book. But I normally don't read that much these days, because I started realizing that when it comes to reading a book, like that could also be a form of procrastination. So there's often times I often like read last, because I often believe that, and I know this is true, but you can read thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of books, but you're not going to learn shit. Like you literally are not going to learn shit. Like you can literally buy thousands and thousands and thousands of courses, but you're literally not going to learn anything. If you just, as long as you do the work, like you're going to learn it. But if you don't take action, then you're fucking wasting your time. Like you're literally just wasting your time. So, and that's why so many people often procrastinate, because they're not doing work that really matters, like work that, turns more into play, right? So that's the reason why so many people don't really exactly do the work, because they don't really like doing the work that really matters the most. I know we have to be disciplined with do things that we don't enjoy doing. Like I often fucking hate doing leg days, but at least I do it anyways. But at least I add some stuff into my life that could actually make work more fun. Like sometimes I often listen to music whenever I go to the gym. Like that's fine. I remember I was literally against listening to music, because I was literally following the whole like David Goggins thing that, oh yeah, music is cheating, whatever. But quite frankly, it's not that bad, right? As long as you're basically enjoying doing the work, like go for it, right? But it has to be in like appropriate seasons, right? Like you really wouldn't want to listen to like rap music, or when like the flowers are basically blooming, right? So I normally like to listen to music in different like occasions and different times. Like oftentimes when I'm literally doing like my deep work task, I often listen to Minecraft music, and I literally have so much fun like literally doing the work. Or I often listen to like Brain FM, or like any sort of lo-fi music. And especially when I often go to the gym, I often listen to like lo-fi music rather than just mostly rap music, which I think like rap music, like I know it triggers a lot of dopamine and stuff like that. But when it comes to these things, I mostly just listen to like rap music, or like Latino music probably when I'm in the car, but I normally don't do it when I'm literally like in my own place. or like when I'm doing my deep work test, because like I don't know, it's just it's kind of strange sometimes, and it just doesn't seem too appropriate. Like imagine if you just have to lift a weight so badly and you get yourself so injured, and while like listening to rap music, like I just don't find it like as that appropriate to just be injured in the middle of listening to Drake, or in the middle of listening to Travis Scott. Like it just doesn't seem appropriate to me when if I were to get injured, or if I were like to almost die, to like like trying to hit a bench press, which literally almost happened to me one time. Well, even though I really wasn't listening to music, but it just doesn't seem that appropriate, just the way how I should be able to like fuck myself up, because everyone wants like their own place on where they actually want to die, right? So yeah, alongside that, you really don't need to have the perfect sleep routine. You really don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. You really don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. But if you're more like, if you've been on self-improvement for about like a year, like there's gonna be a lot of changes that you're gonna want to have to add nowadays. Like now, like after you eliminate all the bad habits, like you can now start like pursuing your own entrepreneurship venture and start to like do what really matters to you, or like do work that really matters the most to you, right? And this is something I've often been seeing myself a lot more, like as long as I'm just taking off the boxes, as long as I'm literally focusing on the macro stuff, which is literally like the big things, right? Like which is like, the work that I'm literally doing, right? And all that matters is doing the work. Like all that matters is doing the work that really matters to you, and that you have a lot of joy in, because you have to do the work and enjoy doing the work. Because I often believe that, when you often look at these fitness trackers, when you often look at the numbers, right? Whether if it's like your Oura Ring stats or your Whoop Band straps, even though I never even used fitness tracker, the only thing I've actually ever used was a Fitbit. I just didn't like it because like so many fat people, like they often use Fitbits, and yeah, like so many fat and like unhealthy people, they often use Fitbits. But the reason I don't really use these things is because I often feel like when I often look at these numbers, like it just triggers me so much, because I'm basically sensitive to numbers sometimes. Like I get so emotionally triggered when I often look at the numbers, right? Like there's often times when I often used to play Counter-Strike, when I used to play Valorant, and when I used to play Destiny 2, like when I often get into some sort of PvP match, I often look at the leaderboards, and when I'm like in the last, like in the bottom of the leaderboards, it fucking like pisses me off. Like it tricks me, like it just triggers me so hard that there was even once in time, like when this happened, I was literally like screaming, like I was literally playing while I was literally fucking mouth breathing every single time. When I often look at the leaderboards all the time, and the same applies when I often look at how much like I weigh, when I often put myself on the weight scale. Like it just triggers the fuck out of me, because even if my goal is to book up, because in the summer I know like some of these guys are basically going for the whole like summer shredding thing. I'm trying to book up in the summer because I often think long term, and I've been on this bulking journey for like ever since I started going to the gym, because back in those days I was like 130. Now I'm trying to get to 180. So I often try to do my best and not ever like be so emotionally triggered when it comes to looking at the numbers, because you have to understand, and I know Bill Walsh basically mentions this, that the scorecard basically takes care of itself, right? So focus on what it is in our own control, and just let them like do the rest. Like just let God just like control the whole like numbers thing and stuff like that, because we can't control it, right? So that's why at the same time I'm mostly focused more on the outputs, more than like on like I focus more on the outputs and the inputs, rather than just the things that's just outside of my own control. I'm sorry if you can hear the background, it's just my PC, right? But alongside that, like I wouldn't stress out on the numbers. Like all that matters the most is mostly the happy, like just the positive emotions, than just like the optimal sleep routine. Because I see so many people who are like often sleep deprived, who like stay up really late, and I know right now it's like, what is it? It's like 12 a.m. So it's basically nighttime for me. So you really don't need to have like the perfect optimal sleep routine. You don't really need to have like the whole Huberman like morning routine or anything like that. You should always take care of your health as always, but I guess everyone's different when it comes to sleep routines or anything like that. So I wouldn't really like stress about it, or I wouldn't like, go through a really hard time when it comes to these things. And that's all like I could just say. So yeah, oftentimes I often like stay up really late, and I used to think it was mostly discipline or grit and willpower, but I started realizing like I'm just doing fine with my work. I'm just performing really well. I'm still taking care of myself. I'm still like compounding with going to the gym more often, and even doing the good habits and taking off the boxes. And most people often focus on spending too much time doing the cold shower thing, and the plunges, the saunas, and the reading book stuff, and the journaling and meditating as a way to like, as a form of procrastination, to like take away so much of time of doing the work, which kind of made me lose a little bit of respect to the guys who do these things, which I often believe that they are like the biggest factor to improve yourself. But what really matters the more is simply just doing the work. Books, meditating, journaling, like they're great. Go for it. Like the way I'm saying, like doesn't mean you should really quit doing these things, but all that matters is like, as long as you're not doing it as a way to just procrastinate or like take up so much of your time doing the work, because what really matters more, like I said, is just doing the work, right? So And yeah, I mean, there's often times where like I'd often go to bed. I have so many creative ideas. Like I have so many like so many stuff that just comes into mind. Like so many creative ideas. So I just went out and just had to just speak in front of you guys. The fact that I just often just really want to just talk a lot, and I often just talk to myself every now and then. Like it's just hard for me to just fall asleep. Whenever I often want to wake up at 5 a.m. or whenever I want to wake up at 6 a.m. Like whenever I often stay up late. Like it's just so hard for me to just go to sleep. So it's normal. It's normal for that to happen when you actually go into your own journey and often just stay up late. Now that you're getting yourself into like the business world, or when you're trying to get yourself into the entrepreneurship world, it happens. So yeah.